Hello, I'm here again with another section on the Bhagavad Gita, and today I'm only going to talk about one single verse. The last video was quite long. This one might be short, I don't know, because this is one of my favorite verses in the Gita. This is chapter 2, verse 38. Now, if you watched the last video, which is very long, but I think very worth watching, we're still talking about this question of, why should Arjuna go and fight and maybe die or maybe kill a bunch of people in this huge war, right? And Krishna has already given some explanation about that, and it ties into this idea of following one's true nature. And now here in verse 38, he says, "Joy and sorrow are equal in gain and loss, as are victory and death. Thus, if you approach any of these without attachment, you will never incur distress." This ties into what I was saying in the previous video, that if you're operating outside of that self-referencing perspective, if you're operating beyond that idea of just, what fulfills your ego, and how to refer to your, the world revolving or centered around you, the whole scene centered around yourself and shrinking into yourself. And instead, you jump out of that and look at the whole environment, the whole space, and yourself is just one part in it. Then a whole bunch of questions, a whole bunch of issues that people have just kind of become irrelevant. You've stepped completely out of it, Joy and sorrow are equal in gain and loss, and as are victory and death. Krishna had said previously that, if Arjuna goes and fights, performing his true will, fulfilling his nature, then if he wins, then he wins the world, right? If he dies, he still wins that higher state of consciousness. The higher state of consciousness isn't because, you're going to die and then you're going to live in Krishna's divine paradise or something like that. It's because he's already won that higher state of consciousness. By doing your will, you've already succeeded. You've already gotten out of yourself and you've become part of the bigger picture. And as soon as you're part of the bigger picture, then this question about the outside motivation disappears. People talk about goals, right? They say, why should I do this meditation, right? I want to do it because I want this and this and this. Or, for that matter, why should I work in this job? Well, because I'm hoping 20 years down the line, I'll be a, middle upper manager or something like that, right? And there's nothing wrong with setting goals, with having an idea of where you want to go, right? But if that's why you're doing it, if that's why you're doing what you're doing right now, then there's a problem. Because what you should be doing right now should already be the goal. The goal should be, I should do my will. And your will can be part of a long-term plan, or it can be part of something immediate, right? But if you're already engaging with the true will, then you're already on the way. You're already on the way to consciousness. You've already succeeded at it, right? So these questions of, will this make me happy? Will this make me sad? Should I, will I benefit from this? How will I benefit? Well, you've already benefited from it. If you start to meditate, for example, because meditation is what we talk about here, then you shouldn't start to meditate with the idea that you will later on achieve some kind of a spiritual state, because we're not dealing in that. We're not dealing in this idea you should pray because if you pray later you'll go up to heaven with Jesus or something. You should pray because you should pray, and that's already the reward, right? If you meditate, the meditation itself is already an expansion of your consciousness. You've already won. You just have to do it. And you have to do each of the things you have to do at any moment you have to do them. So this whole question of the external issues of what's good or what's bad, they disappear in a certain sense. Not that you stop feeling bad about problems or feeling good about successes, or that, you know, there are things you like and things you dislike. Obviously, victory can be more externally pleasant than death, but there's a difference between fighting for an outside goal and fighting for something that is true, because truth is already the victory condition, right? If you've lost, but you've done your will, you've still won. If you aren't doing your will, even if you win, then you're not really winning, because you've deviated from your real nature. And whatever you get from it is going to be bitter. There's not going to be ultimately a reward in it. You may get some kind of momentary satisfaction from it. You know, I can eat cake and I'll get momentary satisfaction from cake and it'll be delicious and I'm not panning cake. But if it's your life's goal to get to eat a cake, then you eat the cake and then you're done the cake. What have you got? You've got nothing, right? And you're going to need to go get more cake. You're going to need to go out looking for the next thing out there for you to get, right? Now, some people in turn say, well, if the goal is just, you know, oneness or something like that, then why don't I just have oneness and that's it, right? But oneness isn't a thing you achieve either. If you're looking at this from this materialistic point of, I have to get this one thing and then I'm going to be happy. People apply that to their spirituality as well, that kind of spiritual materialism, saying, oh, well, I'm just going to be one with the Tao, you know, or I'm just going to be watching my thoughts, and that's great, right? But again, it's not it's not something you just achieve and then you can say, oh, I'm done now, right? It's something that is constant and ongoing because you're part of a bigger picture. It's not about you and what you end up getting or not getting. So you have to continue and continually be manifesting what is your nature. And this is the success, because it means then your entire life is a celebration of your truth. And if you approach your life without this attachment of, I want to get this thing and then be done, if instead you approach your life from this point of view of the happy warrior, right, of this person that is going to go and live his truth every day, live this maximum potential of his being, of his consciousness on a daily basis, then you've had a lifetime of a triumph as a result of that, because it doesn't end, right? That is eternity. That is where the eternal quality comes into your being. Only when you're able to manifest outside this idea of your reference of what I want, then you step out of that, you're outside of that notion of desire, right? And then you can do anything. You can continue to work towards a purpose. And in fact, you will. Your nature will drive you to work towards some purpose, whatever that purpose may be. And unlike any other thing you might do, that purpose, you won't be doing it to obtain it. You'll be doing it to fulfill your nature. So as you're doing it, you're already succeeding. And that's why I think that verse in particular, among many of the other verses of the Bhagavad Gita, is one that I really value and that shows a very important lesson. That's it for today.